How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. Hope you're having a good day, and welcome to another Pokemon Go video. Today I wanted to talk about a great league team that has been giving me an insane amount of wins. It consists of Altaria, Galarian Stunfisk, and Trevenant. This team has a ton of great coverage and can be extremely difficult to deal with, so it's definitely worth trying out. I'm going to be explaining why in this video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Okay, so I don't know if it's just me, but the Great League has been extremely volatile this season. There's been a ton of really tough teams, and it seems like there has been a lot of variety. However, one team has been giving me a good amount of success. This team consists of an Altaria lead, Galarian Stunfisk as the switch, and Trevenant as a closer or pivot. If you are familiar with high elo Great League play, you would know that most of the Pokemon on this team are pretty common. However, bringing them together like this is actually a working strategy. This team would also be amazing for lower elo gameplay, as most players at that level won't have many direct counters readily available. Before we get into how you operate this team, let's go over each of them in detail. The first Pokemon on this team that I want to talk about is the Dragon and Flying type Pokemon Altaria. This Pokemon serves as the lead for this team, as it has very few counters and is often able to take on most other Pokemon that players lead with. The primary reason why Altaria is so relevant right now is because Wall Rain fell off really hard in the current meta. While you still wouldn't want to go headfirst into a Wall Rain with Altaria, it is not a common pick anymore, so your Altaria is relatively safe from it. Aside from its few weaknesses, one of the strengths of Altaria is its plethora of resistances. Because of its Dragon and Flying duo typing, it is resistant to Grass, Fire, Bug, Water, Ground, and Fighting type attacks. This, along with its plethora of type coverage attacks, gives Altaria an advantage against the many bug types and fighting types you may come up against. However, it is extremely vulnerable to a lot of Pokemon you will likely come across, like Galarian Stunfisk, Bastiodon, etc. But if you come up against Trevenant, Nidoqueen, or Swampert leads, they will likely switch out to another Pokemon because Altaria is pretty much a hard counter to them. So let's say they switch out to another Pokemon, or you start off with a very disadvantageous lead. Maybe it's an Ice type or Fairy type, or it's an anti-flyer Pokemon like the ones I mentioned before. Well, you can pivot to the next Pokemon I wanted to talk about, and it is Trevenant. I recently made a video talking about why this particular Pokemon is just too strong right now in the Go Battle League. Just to recap, the Pokemon has incredible shield pressure, very spammy moves, and base stats that make it one of the hardest hitting Pokemon in the Great League. It is also a direct counter to so many Pokemon that are considered meta right now. So even if you pivot into it, chances are your opponent won't have a direct answer. Even some of the ones who do counter Trevenant could still be handled with some good shielding. Trevenant is a Ghost and Grass type Pokemon. It is weak against Dark, Fire, Flying, Ghost, and Ice type attacks. Trevenant also has double resistance to Fighting type and Normal type attacks, and a regular resistance to Electric, Grass, Ground, and Water type attacks. This gives it advantages against a plethora of different Pokemon, but it doesn't really matter because Trevenant is so good even with neutral damage matchups. Ever since I got my rank 1 Trevenant, I've been leaning on it for most of my Go Battle League matches. It's just so strong right now, and it doesn't seem like anything can answer it efficiently. So if you still don't have yourself a PvP ready Trevenant, you should prioritize it as soon as possible because the current meta is being dominated by it. Now, Trevenant is not the only pivot in this team. The third and final Pokemon that I will be talking about is of course the tried and true Great League staple, Galarian Stunfisk. This ground and steel type Pokemon needs no introduction. Galarian Stunfisk has been near the top of the Great League meta for several seasons now. The reason for this is pretty simple. This Pokemon has incredible bulk, has very powerful charge attacks that can be spammed, and it is a direct counter to a ton of different Pokemon. This Pokemon has an incredible list of resistances. It is resistant to Poison, Rock, Electric, Steel, Fairy, Flying, Psychic, Normal, Dragon, and Bug type attacks. This is crazy because a vast majority of Pokemon you will come across in the Great League have attacks of these types. you will innately have an advantage against most of the meta, which is why this Pokemon has been at the top for quite a long time. I would make the argument that Galarian Stunfisk should be a staple to almost every Great League team, even though it is still vulnerable to a handful of Pokemon. But you can use it as a secondary pivot for this particular team because it will provide excellent coverage to both Altaria and Trevenant. Speaking of which, I think one of the many core strengths of this team is how safe the switches are to use. While Altaria is probably one of the best leads right now, you can easily pivot to either Trevenant or Galarian Stunfisk in order to gain key advantages. That is basically the playstyle of this team, where you will want to focus more on counterplay. The idea behind this team is that you will want to keep the pressure on your opponent. If you start off with a bad lead, I would pivot to Trevenant right away. Spam Shadow Ball as much as possible and see if you can at least knock off both of their shields. You can then use the combo of Altaria and Galarian Stunfisk to finish them off. It's a pretty simple strategy, but you will want to mix and match against different teams. Sometimes you will struggle, as there are certain Pokemon that could be troublesome for you to deal with in a given order. The best thing you can do is to hold your composure even if you're at a switch disadvantage. As long as you keep up the offensive pressure, you could still squeak out a win against a player that just has all of your team covered. Now, there's nothing all too exciting with the moves that you will want on this team. Simply put, you will just want to go with the basics. For Altaria, I have Dragon Breath as the fast attack and the Community Day exclusive move Moonblast alongside Sky Attack as the charge attacks. You will want to whittle down your opponent with Dragon Breath while spamming Sky Attack. Moonblast is simply there for type coverage, as dark types will get nuked down by it. Since Altaria is your lead, your goal is to wipe out their opening Pokemon. As I stated before, you don't have to panic if they start off with an Altaria counter. Your goal at that point is to at least get one or both of their shields down and to get some decent chip damage before Altaria gets knocked out. Then you can switch to Trevenant and build up some energy for their next Pokemon. Of course, you could quickly pivot to Trevenant or Galarian Stunfisk as well, but assume they will have an answer for it, so your goal might remain the same. Now for Trevenant, I run the basic setup. Have Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball as your primary moveset, while also running Seed Bomb for type coverage against ground and water types. Galarian Stunfisk is also the usual setup, with Mud Shot as the fast attack and Rock Slide and Earthquake as the charge attacks. All three of the Pokemon on this team are pretty much running the same strategy. Utilize the energy generation of their fast attacks and either use a spammable charge attack or a nuke charge attack. You will want to bait out their shields as quickly as possible. The threat of Earthquake, Shadow Ball, and Moonblast should be utilized to your advantage. Build up enough energy for these nuke attacks, but use the lower energy charge attack for some efficiency. It's basically all about mind games with this team. As long as you are able to bait out their shields, you will pretty much cruise your way to victory. Like any other team that you would run in the Go Battle League, finding success with this team will require repetition and just an overall sense of familiarity. Depending on what teams you go up against, you may find yourself losing a few battles while you get used to what Pokemon is good for which matchup. It's going to take a lot of practice, but I do think it is worth it. This team is a very strong squad for the current meta, and you will most certainly find success with it the more you use it. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I would love to know your thoughts regarding this team down below. Share them in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list, so if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.